Good morning. It's 11, a little bit after 11:30, and based on the concerns that some one or two folks have shared with me, I felt that I needed to revisit real quick what that potential template was supposed to look like for the strategic plan. I will say that the actually help session we had the other day cleared up some folks' issues as well, but I don't have any problem at all doing this video for anybody who's still looking for some more compasses. The other premise, before I forget, and I will talk quickly because, as I was saying to one of the students, I pretty much use up all of my video space on the Molloy Canvas, so I have to move kind of quickly. I may move this video over to a YouTube link, and I'm talking too much. I'm taking too much space up talking about that as well. Um, I did also mention, several of you can verify this for me, that I didn't necessarily think that the template that I had modeled across these several weeks we've been working on this as the be all and end all. All I really wanted was a format that I could understand and that contained the 6 or 7 variables that I needed to see, much like a state form would probably look like, pretty much, except for probably just one column that would have been the probable outcomes. I don't know of any form that does that as such. So I'll model this quickly, and I'm talking quickly too because I don't want to waste the video space. You all know my phone number. You all have my emails. If you're still looking for some feedback, by all means, ask for the feedback. I've been doing that all along the way and enjoying it too, because there were some great points that several of you have made. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a blank Word document. Here we go. And the second thing I'm going to do is share the screen. And here we go. So here now, I'm just going to insert a table. And I had said a few times that the table was probably kind of restrictive for some folks, and I was perfectly okay with you fooling around with it and making it more your own. All right, now I made a mistake already. Let me just do it. But you can see right now I just have a plain old, simplest of all types of form table to begin with. And what I'm going to do is add a column to the right. And maybe I need another one too. Goal strategies. Evaluation. I'll add another one just to play it safe. And I'm going to add several rows below. I just realized that I'm not recording this. All right, so we start again. Heavens to Betsy. Oh, I am recording it. And if we need more, we'll do that. Okay, this is going to expand as we move along. I said that I needed a goal. I'm going to put these in caps just so you can see them more clearly. Said that I needed a goal / objective, if you wanted to call it that, a 3 to 5 year goal. That was focused towards the change issue that you chose to take a look at. I said that I needed Oh, this is the first point. And a lot of you made this mistake, and that's on me. I'm not blaming anybody for this way in any shape, manner, or form. What I had wanted was that this goal would be isolated, would be all by itself. That is to say, nothing else except goal objective and everything blank across the top here. One of you have not done that. You've kind of slid the whole shebang up to the front. That's on me. It's a format issue, and I've stopped even asking people to correct it. Although several of you did do that. So what I'll do here is I'll uh, start the rest of the row down here. So we said that there would be strategies and that there would be both formative and summative evaluation criteria. I may not be going in the correct order here, so I apologize for that. Then I said, tell me who the persons are who are responsible for implementation. And give me a timetable. That became kind of interesting as I'm looking at the various uh, offerings I'm getting. Folks really thought this through a little differently than I did, and that was okay. I liked that you came up with those things. And then this column would have been the resources. And that got a little confusing, I think, for some of you as well. I could see why it might have thrown you. And then we just make that bigger. And then the last piece would have been I keep giving it different names, but we'll call it the probable futures. Okay, okay. Okay, now, first premise that several of you uh, seem to be having difficulty with is I said that I needed one set of strategies that was about your needs assessment, or rather your information gathering. And I offered about 6, maybe 7 different strategies that I would want you to do. Now, mind you, I remember saying this too. I don't expect anybody to perform the actual needs assessment. No, there's just not enough time in a given semester to do that. All right. But I did want you to say these were the strategies I would use. I'm only going to put 3 in here just to uh, give you an example. In some cases, but not in all, you could have done a survey. You could have done, uh, and several of you got very detailed about this, which was terrific. You could have done a survey. You could have done focus groups if you thought that was necessary. I'll come back to what I mean by that in a minute. Focus groups, interviews. You could have quite obviously analyzed data, analyzed state data, whatever data you think you need to connect back to the goal. And in certain senses, if you think about it, let me just highlight this for a minute. In a certain sense, if you think about it, it's pretty hard to write an objective if you don't really haven't done something with information gathering. Now, many of you have done, and I would have done it too if you had assigned this topic to this task to me. Would have you think that you know what the issue is? So if you're talking about uh, one student is looking at a reconfiguration of the school district with a 678 building, I think it was going to be, or maybe a 58 in a 912 high school, and this kind of approach. And so in order to get the information that she needed to create the strategies that would enable her to put that in place, she would have to do all sorts of things, probably like the ones I've highlighted, as well as other premises as well. And then she could go back, she did go back and wrote up an objective, which was to be, could come up with a plan that would enable a smooth transition of a reconfiguration of the building to meet students' needs. And you know, that being the case, um, that being the case, um, I get distracted by the phone, excuse me. These two columns clearly they all connected, but these two columns clearly are intertwined. And then we went over, and I think you all did a nice job at this. You all identified uh, how would you know? I didn't write it this way, but just to make it clear, how would you know whether your strategies are giving you what you need, how they work? How would you know? So if you're looking to recreate IEPs, for example, I think I recall somebody saying that was their change issue. How would I know whether they did that? Well, clearly the end product of that would be after 3 to 5 years would have been they write perfect lesson plans. I'm sorry, perfect IEP plans. But it could have been intervening strategies. For example, if one of the strategies were to uh, offer PD related to related to IEP uh, principles, well, I would know that that works when the PD is completed and the students have begun to show evidence of, I'll just put down show evidence here, evidence of mastering the principles that you talked about. Right, and you go from there. And again, we talked about formative evaluation and summative. The summative one is probably the easiest in a certain sense because if you're saying this is a 3 year or 3, 4, 5 year, let's say it's a 3 year plan, you would say that 3 year plan evidence is complete change in the IEP construction and that they really fit the bill according to the criteria that you set. Clear enough. So as you can see, we're talking about, we took a strategy. We showed how we were going to measure it or see that it's been done. And then walking across, I think I got this a little bit. Yeah. Like I'm going to take this out because I can see how that can confuse you. This belongs in a different spot. This belongs here. Now I'm confusing myself. Give me a second. No, that's where it belonged, right? To begin with. Forgive me. And then who's going to do it? Now, the easy answer is everybody, but that's not a good answer. So if I'm this director of special education, or you're the chairperson of the IEP of the CSA group, you would want to see that the IEPs are coming out legally and educationally completely effective. So I would say, for example, the CSE chair. That's just one example. And the timetables got interesting. And they're going to vary according to the strategy that you put together. So I'm going to skip down to this one down here. In fact, let me drop down to this one for a minute. If a strategy were to offer a PD, who would be responsible? Could be a consultant, could be some sort of expert in the building or in the district, okay? I'll put down an expert. And how would I know, when would this be taking place? Now, what I deliberately put that right beneath the information gathering strategy. I'm going to come back up to that one in a minute. I deliberately did that so that you could see this is a first step. This is not something you do, down, 2 years from now. This is something that you want to get in. We want to get all the acorns in the ground so that they'll yield the big oak trees at the end of the line, and to mix metaphors. So this is going to be done early. So for argument's sake, let's go back up to information gathering for a minute. I'm going to take this out. Come back to that later. All right. Let's just say that we're going to get information together. Well, that's going to take, that's not something so you can snap your finger at doing. So I'm going to say, just as an example, that the timetable for information gathering might take a semester. It might take 6 months. Could take longer. If you think it would take less, that's fine too. I'm not going to argue the point. And then I drop back down to offering PD as a first step towards making this all happen properly to meet this goal and objective. I would say that this would be early on, clearly, and I would say this is going to happen in the fall. It could be the spring of 25, but let's call it the fall of 25. That's where you're, or summer of 25. It might even be better. Now I walk this across. Now, okay, let's go back up to this information gathering one. And so what resources do I need? Well, I need time, as I said to you quite a few times. You're going to need data. You're going to need probably money, but let's leave the money one out because that's so obvious. You're going to need time. You're going to need data. Uh, you're going to need skills to learn how to analyze data from what the survey may be telling you, from what focus group interviews may be saying to you about how teachers and how the special education teachers engage IEP development, and what data they may show. I'm not sure if that necessarily applies to this particular box. So what do you need? Okay, what do you need? Support. I can even give you that one to play around with if you haven't thought about that. Now for this one, I would say the resources would be pretty much similar. And by the way, it's no problem with you reproducing any of these. Pretty much similar. Let's think out loud. If you want to offer PDs, well, again, you're probably going to need a consultant. And you got to pay for that consultant, although we're not going to ask how much that's going to be. Maybe you need technology, all right, and so forth. Now, we've got a plan coming together. You've begun really in a certain sense with information gathering, and the information gathering led you to believe in this case that the IEPs need to be revised and made more legally and educationally correct. And what you decided to, and this was based on what the surveys told you and what the focus group, maybe then again, you may not want to use those three ideas. I'm just giving you suggestions on that. And then from that, you're going to say, well, what will we be doing in order to assure ourselves that we're going to do that? And I suggested strongly that the first thing I would do is come up with a PD plan of professional development that's probably ongoing, but certainly has to be a big and important kickoff at the outset of the plans going into effect. How would if I'm working, again, the information gathering strategy across the row, across horizontally, how would you know whether those strategies work? Well, you've got information in that case. And you see some points of view and concepts that you didn't necessarily expect to see. And you saw some real gaps that probably indicate why you're going to do a PD strategy to begin with. Who would be responsible? In this case, I guess it would be the director. And the timetable I'll stick with, that's probably a good 3 to 6 months of concerted effort to pull that together. And we already identify what we need to have that happen. And the probable futures was, and I insisted on this because I see that as something that's implicit in this table to begin with. I insisted on this, and I also offered you two futuring strategies to pull that together. I understand that you probably could guess what those things are, and and that's fine. You can put down what you think might happen, all right? But you can, because based on your experiences in the issue that you're working with. But I also would strongly declare, aver, never used that word before, affirm that using the futuring strategies that I demonstrated would yield you things you hadn't thought about. So I'm going to just I'm not making it up, but I'm going to speculate what that might be. So you might, in a probable future, you might run into resistance. I can see that happening, especially in among our union friends sometimes. You might run into resistance to do this in the first place. It's probably something you may not have thought about straight away. There might be a conflict of shared vision. And so you're going to give me, I would say at least three, but 3 to 5 premises that might apply here for this strategy. For this strategy, for the information gathering premise. And the same thing would obtain with this strategy, which now that strategy and the ones below this, put those in green just to differentiate a little bit for you. Those strategies are all about how you're going to use what the information you've gotten to meet the goal, which I didn't write up here, but you can, whatever it is, the goal. And the goals I saw actually were pretty good. And then again, how would I evaluate that? What evidence do I need to understand whether that strategy is coming together by hiring a PD, putting a PD program together for all special education teachers? Who's responsible? We've already talked about. And I think all these things begin to fall into place. And a probable future that would probably be some of these same things here. I'll duplicate that one, because I've been around too often to see that that's often an obstacle or a roadblock that has to be acknowledged. I'd even put down a probable future being the IEPs improve, we would hope, and students, I'm going to use a fancy word again, flourish. Spelled wrong. Okay, it's not spelled, still not spelled right, but maybe that's the way it looks. Okay. Now let's get a third strategy. This third strategy could be if I want to improve IEP development. All right. I might do professional visitations. That is to say here that a school district has exemplary IEPs that are being developed and has been recognized for it perhaps by the state education department. So you either call up that district or you Zoom with them, or you physically go there to interview some people, and now you're there and you're really learning what the exemplars might be. A third one would be you begin to demonstrate how to approach writing the one. It might be the same as the one above, but in other words, I'm going to use a word that I have used a little bit, but not as much as I probably should have, where you pilot it. Piloting is always a good idea when you're putting a change in place. Walk it across. How would I know the professional visitations come? So people come back and they share. That's just a quick one that comes to place. And summatively, we see that we are now using that model, their model, District X. You might see that in demonstrating how to approach the model, you might see, again, you could use a pilot to review how things are going, something like the way we're trying to do in the course by giving people chances to get feedback from me. But anything that looks like that you're beginning to develop it, and then I'm not going to go any farther than this, but the last strategy could obviously be we have everybody trained properly to write the best lesson IEPs possible. And again, as you walk across, just to continue a bit more, persons responsible for this might be the director again, or the CSE chair. HR might be involved with hiring student, rather substitutes, while you go off to visit another place. And a person's responsible for demonstrations, could be in a professional day. We have a district-wide meeting of all people so they can begin to exchange and share among each other, which is another strategy we could put down here, come to think of it. And this might happen, and I think I told you that the timetable sometimes throw me. This might happen in a probably early on. I would probably say maybe fall 25, if not summer 25, if you could pull that together. But the actual writing and demonstrating among the people might take late fall 25. So you can piece that out. I'm not going to argue the point as long as I can see that you figured out a sequence to pull that together. And I'm also realizing that you are may not be seeing this. Holy crow. And now you do. All right. So you can see what I've been trying to pull together as you move along. And I'll send this, obviously. I'll keep it on the Zoom, but I also will send this. And that's basically it. I mean, I know there's bits and pieces and parts that may not uh, may be missing as such, but I certainly think that along the lines of the conversations we've had and exchanges we've had by way of the DQs and by way of the uh, quite a bit of my interacting with quite a bit of the students, the students along the way, uh, pretty much fleshes out what this seems to be all about. Now, the question is, does it look like what you're putting together? Maybe not. Several of you have taken it upon yourself and let me know in advance, which I appreciated, that you were going to go off the reservation and take it and move it, move some things around, maybe add some things, and that's okay as long as I can figure it out. In some cases, the format chart is throwing me up to now, and you have another week to do this. Obviously, it's throwing me. I'm having trouble finding these pieces. Now, you may see some things differently. I think resources sometimes is interpreted differently by some folks. But when I think the key piece here is you've got strategies, the first of which I insist must be information gathering strategies, needs assessment, and then strategies to meet the objective, spaced out across some time as such, always built in with an accountability column so we can figure out what you need to look at. Because in fact, what always happens, believe me when I tell you this, if you haven't done one of these already, someone will ask 2 years from now, what happened to the plan and how do you know whether those strategies have worked? And that's a very legitimate question for a board member or from someone from district office, for example, to ask that question. Person's responsible, I think it's clear enough. Again, timetables throws me a little bit. Don't front load. Don't try to have everything happen in the first 3 months or even in the first year. Remember, you have 3 to 5 years to pull this together. My strategic plan is 3 to 5 years, or 3 to 10 years, actually, but I don't want to make your brain hurt too much on this. Resources are sometimes interpreted differently by different people. In a real resource column, in an actual plan, you'd be predicting expenditures. We're not doing that. That's not necessary for this particular point. And then the probable futures is, again, the one that I've added to this and insist on, that you can speculate by way of using the futuring skills and also using your considerable experiences, I'm sure, to make that happen as such. And so, unless I think of something else, I'm pretty confident that that I've shown you a basic, simple template. Now, as a couple of you have said, and I totally respect and agree with you, what may be a little bit vague because these boxes sometimes restrict people far too understandably restrict them, then that's fine. You take your PowerPoint, you put together the slides of the highlight issues or the issues that you want to demonstrate to the rest of the class next Thursday, and that will supplement this. Rather than have you write a whole paper out, I thought that would be sufficient as such. And with that, I'm going to stop the share. And again, you're going to get a copy of this in a minute in another module, but I'm going to stop the share and say I'll be here this weekend. Got some things going on. I'll do the best I can to make the time to work with you, whether it be by phone, by TomTom, by tin cans and strength. Been saying that to you since the first day I met you. I have no problem helping you move through some things that many of you have never seen before, and others of you have, and that's okay too, because that means you have that many more muscles to do this. When you see this, the presentations next week, I will tell you my future for you to see. You'll say, well, wait a minute, person X did this, person Y did that. I didn't do that, or I did that, and you're going to kind of try to verify it against yourself, against the rest of your colleagues. And it's not necessary. If I think something is wandering off the reservation, I will have told you uh, one way or another, and I'll give you time to complete it as such. If it's something that I think is necessary to take care of, we can do that. I'm not trying to have people show what they don't know. I want to have people master the skill set and the dispositions and the skill set again, I'll say, to have this happen. So I'm hopefully not going to lose this in my video space, but we'll see in a minute what that's all about. You have my number, you have my email. Take it from there. Appreciate having the chance to show this to you.